Today's question is, what's the worst wedding you've ever been to?
I was in a wedding as a groomsman for a childhood friend of mine this past summer. There were 10 groomsmen and 10 bridesmaids, and you could tell that everyone involved had no experience managing such a large group of people. Coupled with the fact that half of the bridal party had children with them that they had to wrangle and take care of, and the rehearsal/pre-wedding orders of business took forever. The wedding itself, it was a church wedding, which isn't bad in and of itself, but this wedding was the day after Roe versus Wade was struck down by the Supreme Court. So, of course, the minister made the homily very much about that. During a wedding, the church had NOAC and peak summer heat, so everyone was sweltering. With how long it took for the bridal party to get ready, there was no time for anyone to stop at a gas station on the way to grab water or anything, and there wasn't any at the church for guests in the form of a water fountain. After communion was given out, the groom went around to every single guest in attendance, all 180, and shook their hands/hugged them and talked to them for a few seconds. Everyone just had to watch him do that for like 20 minutes. After the wedding was over, we had to run over to the reception venue to help set up and get photos out on the golf course. The spot where we were going to do photos was on the other end of the event site, and with golf carts only seating 2 people and 3 golf carts given to our bridal party, we had to drop people off one at a time by this bridge. Once all 27 of us were there, 24 in the wedding, plus 2 ring bearers and the flower girl, not to mention everyone's kids, the photographer informed us that the sunlight was too bright for that location, and we had to go back to the reception hall to get photos there. Keep in mind, those who'd gotten to the original photo spot first had been standing in the direct sunlight, with no shade available and in full 3-piece suits, for about 40 minutes, with again no water being made available to us throughout the day. So we repeat the whole process again, and by the time everyone is at the new photo spot, which is right by the reception hall, so this whole charade was fucking pointless. 2 bridesmaids have passed out from heat exhaustion. We take care of them and rush through photos, because of course there's not enough time to get all of them done now. Oh, and this new photo spot was also in the middle of the 18th hole, so we're also dodging multiple golf balls and dealing with angry golfers. A few of us tried to get the party to move, but we were shot down. At this point it's about 5 p.m., and the original plan was to go off-site to grab something to eat or drink before dinner was served at 8, because, again, nothing's been available to eat or drink all day at this point. That's when the bridal party is informed that they have to be back on site by 5:30 to wait and make their grand entrance when the reception starts at 6:30. This wasn't in the original itinerary. So we're stuck there, waiting behind the reception hall for an hour, in the sunlight once again, for people to start showing up. So, we make our venue entrance once the other guests have been seated. Dinner eventually gets served, and, on a positive note, the food was actually great. We're all chugging down waters like we've just crossed the Mojave Desert and have been eating nothing but sand for 2 weeks. The bartenders can't bring us pitchers of water fast enough. At around 8:30, one of the groomsmen, we'll call him Ian, suddenly becomes super sullen and isn't talking to anybody. I've since heard afterwards that this may have been due to beef with another groomsman. But at 9 p.m., once it's like almost fully dark, the best man comes up to me and tells me that Ian disappeared into the woods behind the golf course. The wedding party has now come to a halt as half of us are scouring the woods, drunk and in the dark, looking for this guy with a history of self-harm and suicidal ideation. We find him, and he's safe, but the mood of the wedding reception has been irreparably soured after this. Things mostly proceeded as normal after that. The lead bartender, who I've been chatting with on and off throughout the night, has provided great service all night. At around 11:30, right before last call for drinks, I thank her for dealing with such an insane wedding party and for all the rowdio guests. Her response, verbatim, "Oh, you guys are no problem at all." It's when I have to serve the help that I start to lose my mind. As she said this, she nodded towards a group of black wedding guests behind me, including the father of the bride. By far the worst wedding I've ever been to or in. Always post this when the subject comes up. Went to a wedding that my wife and I said will not last more than 2 years. The wedding was in the backyard of the bride's house. They had all the chairs and wedding arch set up outside. They set up a plastic tarp running down the aisle to walk on. Just before the wedding starts, there are darkening clouds appearing. Should have been a sign to move the wedding inside, but they invited too many people to the damn thing. Just as they start the wedding, it begins to rain lightly. The father of the bride is walking the bride down the lane and slips on the wet tarp and falls on his ass. Bride is now at the front, raining harder. People start to cover up with whatever they have. Some people start to get up too. Bride turns around and says to all, "This is my wedding, and no one is going to ruin it. You better all fucking sit your asses down." We all sit back down and the wedding resumes. It is now raining pretty good. The grass is now turning into mud. A few ladies in the crowd and the bridesmaids' makeup is now running down the faces. My wife has taken my jacket as a cover from the rain. They finish the vows and kiss, and then everyone runs to the house and garage to get out of the rain. Oh, remember how I said the grass was now mud? Yeah, lots of people slipped and fell in the mud on the way to the house. We got to the house. Many people looked terrible from the running makeup, muddy clothing, and soaking wet. A few of the women had to cover their chests and waists due to wet clothing becoming see-through. Most of the men were loaning their coats to the ladies to cover up. Dirty looks all around. The wedding cake was outside, and now brought in. The rain made the decorations on the cake turn all runny, and it looks horrible. The bride and groom began to cut the cake and feed each other. They smashed the cake pieces into each other's faces, then began a food fight with each other. My friend's wife got hit in the face with purple icing cake on her face and dress. The priest got hit with and yellow icing on his white robe. There was nothing left of the cake to serve. Food being served was still frozen in the middle of the food, and the stuff that was not frozen was burned. The dessert was supped to be the cake, but as said above, there was nothing left. There was a goodie bag that people got on the way out. Had a lollipop, a coupon for ice cream cone at McDonald's, a pencil with the bride and groom name on it, and Halloween-size M&Ms. My wife, whose dress was filthy, her makeup was out of whack, and her hair was a mess, said to me that she does not want to see those people again for 6 months. She was so mad. The couple divorced 11 months later when the groom came home from work and found his wife getting double-teamed by 2 guys. I worked this one. It was a dramatic shift, but everyone left, so I got off early and the bride left a big tip to apologize. I'd rather have worked late and got a smaller tip if it meant she had had the wedding of her dreams. The father of the bride got into quite an aggressive argument with best man. Best man was brother of the groom, because he had hit on his niece who was 17. The best man didn't know she was 17 and was actually only 19 himself, but understood it definitely not okay as she was still a minor. He was mortified when he found out and was confronted with it. It was awkward, but they agreed it was a misunderstanding, and the night went on. A lot of drinks later, they were all on the dance floor. I was collecting glasses, so I happened to be in the center of this. The best man was chatting to the 17-year-old to the side of the dance floor, and I heard he was apologizing to her for what had happened earlier. I definitely was not lingering to hear their conversation. Because it was a genuine apology, the following events were completely unnecessary. The father of the bride saw them talking and without hesitation came over and punched the best man square in the face. Upon seeing this, the groom ran over to the father of the bride and punched him back. This ended up in a full-on brawl between multiple, very drunk, members of the family. The bride got in between them to break it up, and she unfortunately got hit and her eye started to swell. I managed to swoop in and take her off as my manager came running out the kitchen to break it up. The bride was in tears, her day ruined. The bride, her mother, and stepdad hung around to pay the bar tab and clear their belongings and explained to me that she hadn't wanted to invite her dad. He always causes problems and was very aggressive and argumentative, and she knew he would somehow ruin her day, but she invited him to save drama before the wedding. She also explained that her husband punching him wasn't just because he hit her brother, but was from years of him having to sit back and see her deal with his behavior. The dad was ruining her day just like she thought he would and then managed to assault his brother. The police were called, but nobody pressed charges, unfortunately. I'd love to know where they are now. I hope they managed to have a very happy life together. And this is the end of today's video. I hope you liked it, and don't forget to comment an anecdote or experience similar to the topic of the video. Leave your like, share if you liked the video, and lastly, don't forget to activate the little bell so you don't miss any of our daily videos. Bye-bye.